They're real. They have discussed what to do about it. Vatican intelligence would really like to discuss it. That's the problem here. We need the governments to reveal these files. The Chinese have done it. The Brazilians have done it. The French did it about a month ago, and it so lit up their switchboard, crashed their net. So I think the people are way ahead of military intelligence.
Studies have been done that, quote, clearly indicate the likelihood of an extraterrestrial explanation. But there are people sitting out there, I'm hoping there are millions of people watching at the moment, who are saying, this is nutty. Why do we even talk about such a thing?
Since they're not attacking us and they've been seen for years, what's the fear? What's the government's fear?
That's an interesting question. I've been working with Paul Hellyer. He's the ex-minister of Defense Canada under Trudeau. He is upset because the Americans are planning the weaponization of space as though they are enemies.
Really?
Yes, and it is very troubling to him. It came out of a project called Project Paperclip, in which, and this is what Eisenhower warned us against, the sustention of the military-industrial complex. In order to extend the power and the funding of the military-industrial complex, you have to be afraid of things. Number one was communism. If that petered out, number two is terrorism. That's here for a while. Number three is asteroids, and number four is extraterrestrials. So there might be a built-in reasoning here to have induced fear just to keep military-industrial complex going.
I'm going to tell you why the United States government is afraid for you to find out what the truth is regarding UFOs.
Some Chinese residents are on edge this morning after another apparent UFO sighting. It's the second one in 2 weeks. The first sighting was on July 7th, and an airport had to be shut down.
All right, that's a UFO if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, can you identify it?
That's undeniable.
The airport had to be shut down after people apparently saw twinkling lights above the airport terminal. 17 flights had to be diverted. The latest sighting happened just 2 days ago, and people say they saw 4 lantern-like objects forming a diamond shape in the air, hovering in the sky for over an hour.
1953, at least 10 more crash disks were recovered, along with 26 dead and 4 live aliens. One of the 4 live aliens died within hours of being removed from the craft. The others died approximately 3 or 4 days later. Of the 10, 4 were found in Arizona, 2 in Texas, 1 in New Mexico, 1 in Louisiana, 1 in Montana, and 1 in South Africa. There were hundreds of sightings. Why were so many craft crashing? Because the government was scared. And when they found out that the radar was downing the craft, they started aiming the radar at the craft with lock-on radar and pumped the juice through. And they brought as many down as they could.
50% of all Americans believe the extraterrestrial explanation accounts for these sightings. Up to as many as 90% of Americans believe the government is outright lying. The polls are unambiguous. Year after year, the same thing. In fact, if you could talk anonymously to people, even in Congress, probably 50% of members of Congress already convinced that the extraterrestrial presence explains this phenomena. Disclosure is at hand. It is very close, and the American people need to prepare themselves very soon for an announcement from our government that there is, in fact, an extraterrestrial presence engaging this planet and the human race.
Why did it stop over one of the most treasured sites in Christianity?
There's a new video this morning that some say may be proof we're not alone in the universe. A UFO in the form of a bright light is seen descending over the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. The video is said to be taken over the weekend. Then suddenly the light shoots up into the sky. There you see it. Another video from a different angle appears to show the light doing the same thing.
The universe. A vast organism of consciousness filled with trillions of galaxies and intelligent life beyond. It is a far-extending mysterious entity which begs to intrigue our curiosity. Are we to believe that it is just us in the universe? Or are there other planets in our galaxy and galaxies beyond that could sustain life for other races to evolve? There have been thousands of reports worldwide regarding the UFO phenomenon, thousands of historic documents claiming an extraterrestrial presence in the ancient world, myths and legends of beings coming from the skies or beings living underground. And still, our society continues on ambiguous to these reports, and it is still not fully accepted within our society that we are not alone. Could there be an agenda to suppress this fact with cover-up after cover-up? Is the reality of the phenomenon more than the public can handle? Is it stranger than we can even imagine? Why the ongoing suppression of truth from our governments? It is time to delve further into this phenomenon and time to remove the lid and unmask this extraterrestrial presence.
Listen, I've been involved in this whole thing for 40 years, and I've been deeply involved in it for the last 20. And let me tell you, take it for what it's worth, in my view, there ain't gonna be no disclosure. Not like they expect. They expect the government to someday have a news conference and stand up and say, hey, we got a little surprise for you. Guess what? We've been keeping it from you. We're sorry about that, but it was for your own good, you know. You guys weren't ready for this. You probably couldn't handle it. So, but now we're going to tell you, oh yes, aliens are here. They've been here for quite a while. Oh, they're all over the place. Well, they are indeed all over the damn place. But you're not going to get a government disclosure because that's not how government works. First of all, they're a bunch of nitwits in some cases. They're not capable of giving you a disclosure and doing it in a sensible, thoughtful, caring way. For a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is that they don't want to admit to you they've been lying to you for over 60 years. And then the other thing is that they are really a little bit uncertain and frightened themselves because the true scope of their awareness and what they know still has them in a state of shock. Because they can't come out and tell you what, it's like my analogy of the Pandora's box. You don't open it just a little bit. You just lift the lid just a tiny bit and boom, everything comes out. Well, when everything comes out, it's going to blow the lid off of everything because this is the biggest damn story in human history. And it's simply this: you're not alone and you have never been alone. And you have had, as I have learned over the years, an intimate interrelationship with advanced extraterrestrial intelligence from the beginning of human history. And one of the big secrets is that they don't want to even get close to is that your very existence was initiated and orchestrated by an advanced extraterrestrial intelligence. Now, how the hell are they going to tell you all of that?
Our leaders don't want us to know what's going on. The Russians know, the Chinese know, we don't. That's how it is, folks. They let Russian satellites fly over the most secret bases and take pictures, but if you try to get out to Area 51, watch it.
I'm an annoyance to my superiors, a joke to my peers. They call me Spooky. Spooky Mulder. I'm the key figure in an ongoing government charade. The plot to conceal the truth about the existence of extraterrestrials.
Well, I would say that about does it, Spooky.
I came to believe in the existence of extraterrestrial life and in a conspiracy inside the government to keep their existence secret.
What makes you think this is a conspiracy, that the government's involved?
What makes you think it isn't? A shadow conspiracy within our own government.
Agent Mulder was ready to believe that the body was that of an extraterrestrial biological entity.
You and Mulder are the only ones who can bring it to light.
You don't honestly believe this is some kind of an extraterrestrial?
If it were true, it would be confirmation of the existence of extraterrestrial life. Who are these people?
They only have one policy: deny everything.
The government knows about it, and I gotta know what they're protecting. Nothing else matters to me, and this is as close as I've ever gotten to it. If we fail to anticipate the unforeseen or expect the unexpected in a universe of infinite possibilities, we may find ourselves at the mercy of anyone or anything that cannot be programmed, categorized, or easily referenced.
Now, who are they protecting? And even with our limited resources here in the individual private sector that has been trying to deal with this for all these years, we do know a little bit. We know that since 1947 at least, a power structure within the military intelligence inner sanctum has appropriated the UFO phenomenon, has made it its own sphere, and politics below that level has nothing to do with it. I don't think the president knows any more than you and I do, probably less. No matter who the president is at any given time. And this power structure has attempted to manage the relevant information for its own purposes. First, it wanted to control this information until it could manage it. But that never happened. That's how they said it. It never happened. We'll just control it until we understand it and have a handle on it. So tell the folks it never happened. But later, they found out they couldn't get the handle. They couldn't manage it. But here they were having it covered up and having lied and carried out illegal activities to keep it covered up. So what can you do then when you realize you can't get a handle on it? Well, if it can't be managed, you just simply continue to deny and debunk. And the attitude has been, we can't stop the UFO sightings. Okay, but we can ridicule and frighten the witnesses of these events into silence.
The official space program was boosted by President Kennedy in his inaugural address when he mandated that the United States put a man on the moon before the end of the decade. Although innocent in its conception, this mandate enabled those in charge to funnel vast amounts of money into black projects and conceal the real space program from the American people. A similar program in the Soviet Union served the same purpose. In fact, a joint alien United States and Soviet Union base already existed on the moon at the very moment Kennedy spoke the words. On May 22, 1962, a space probe landed on Mars and confirmed the existence of an environment which could support life. Not long afterward, the construction of a colony on the planet Mars began in earnest. Today, there is a colony which exists on the planet Mars. It is a United States-Russian alien facility.
Now you might ask, what have our authorities and officials in government been doing about this? Well, to begin answering that question, I want you to remember that I want you to realize something. There has been a revolution that's taken place in our government, and here in the Cradle of Liberty, I feel like we need to call for another one. And I hope by the time we're through here, there will be a revolution of some sort in our action and in our lives and in our thinking about this. But there has been a revolution within our government. So that today, a very great part of the power structure that really deals with our situation globally is unknown to you and me. It's not people we vote for. It's not people we recognize on the street. But it's where the power structure stops at the top. And you'll never see it, and I'll never see it. And I'll say this openly, you could elect my dog president, it wouldn't change that power structure. And we don't know it. We're the ones they're hiding it from. You know what they call us up there among the intelligence community's top levels? We're the sheeple. And that's their term for us. We are the sheeple. Now, this revolution in government activities, we may never know the true extent of these activities because the public is not being told. In fact, most of the evidence that keeps things, most of the effort to keep things covert is not aimed at our so-called political enemies. It's aimed at us, the sheeple. Nowadays, it seems, and I'm going to talk about specific examples of this, that power structure within that high level of military intelligence government activity has decided that they can only gather information, they can't control it. And where do you get the best information about what the aliens are doing? Where do you get it? You get it from satellites? You get it from phone surveillance? You get it from abductees. the first-hand accounts from the people who are facing it one-on-one, and now we have evidence, and I mean really hard evidence, that this power structure's agents are not only doing surveillance on abductees, they are also abducting abductees, interrogating abductees, using drugs and other mind control techniques upon abductees, trying to ask these questions. What do you know about the alien agenda? What are they doing with your family? What have they told you you will be doing? What have they done to put implants in you? What procedures are they carrying out on you? They are asking us questions in a desperate attempt to get the information from us.
The UFO phenomenon is truly a phenomenon of our times. It is an extremely puzzling one and calls forth a wide spectrum of opinions. No matter what one may think about UFOs, no matter what one may believe about them, whether it is all nonsense or whether they represent something very, very real, three facts stand out, three facts which no one can deny. The first is that UFO reports exist. Secondly, that UFO reports come from all over the world. And the third is that many are made by highly responsible people, often scientifically trained. We scientists have no positive proof yet of the origin or even of the reality of these strange reported craft, but we do know that the reports themselves are very real. To find the answer to this magnificent scientific puzzle, the UFO phenomenon, we need to approach it with a truly open mind so we can explore all possible avenues of explanation.
Listen, I've been involved in this whole thing for 40 years, and I've been deeply involved in it for the last 20. And let me tell you, take it for what it's worth, in my view, there ain't gonna be no disclosure. Not like they expect. They expect the government to someday have a news conference and stand up and say, hey, we got a little surprise for you. Guess what? We've been keeping it from you. We're sorry about that, but it was for your own good, you know. You guys weren't ready for this. You probably couldn't handle it. So, but now we're going to tell you, oh yes, aliens are here. They've been here for quite a while. They're all over the place. Well, they are indeed all over the damn place. But you're not going to get a government disclosure because that's not how government works. First of all, they're a bunch of nitwits in some cases. They're not capable of giving you a disclosure and doing it in a sensible, thoughtful, caring way. For a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is that they don't want to admit to you they've been lying to you for over 60 years. And then the other thing is that they are really a little bit uncertain and frightened themselves because the true scope of their awareness and what they know still has them in a state of shock. Because they can't come out and tell you what, it's like my analogy of the Pandora's box. You don't open it just a little bit. You just lift the lid just a tiny bit and boom, everything comes out. Well, when everything comes out, it's going to blow the lid off of everything because this is the biggest damn story in human history. And it's simply this: you're not alone and you have never been alone. And you have had, as I have learned over the years, an intimate interrelationship with advanced extraterrestrial intelligence from the beginning of human history. And one of the big secrets is that they don't want to even get close to is that your very existence was initiated and orchestrated by an advanced extraterrestrial intelligence. Now, how the hell are they going to tell you all of that?
Our leaders don't want us to know what's going on. The Russians know, the Chinese know, we don't. That's how it is, folks. They let Russian satellites fly over the most secret bases and take pictures, but if you try to get out to Area 51, watch it.
I'm an annoyance to my superiors, a joke to my peers. They call me Spooky. Spooky Mulder. I'm the key figure in an ongoing government charade. The plot to conceal the truth about the existence of extraterrestrials.
Well, I would say that about does it, Spooky.
I came to believe in the existence of extraterrestrial life and in a conspiracy inside the government to keep their existence secret.
What makes you think this is a conspiracy, that the government's involved?
What makes you think it isn't?
A shadow conspiracy within our own government.
Agent Mulder was ready to believe that the body was that of an extraterrestrial biological entity.
You and Mulder are the only ones who can bring it to light.
You don't honestly believe this is some kind of an extraterrestrial?
If it were true, it would be confirmation of the existence of extraterrestrial life. Who are these people?
They only have one policy: deny everything.
The government knows about it, and I gotta know what they're protecting. Nothing else matters to me, and this is as close as I've ever gotten to it.
Betty Hill remembers.
This craft left the top of the mountain, came out of the highway, and stopped in midair. Barney took the binoculars and started out of the car in an attempt to identify the craft. And as he did this, he saw a group of figures standing in the windows looking down at him. One was saying to him, "Don't be afraid. Keep looking, stay there. Don't be afraid. No harm's going to come to you, but stay there." And the craft started to descend. And Barney ran back to the car, saying we had to get out of there, they were going to capture us. And we took off speeding down the highway.
For 22 and a half years, I served in the United States Army. During my tenure, I was on many occasions asked to serve as the official, unofficial UFO consultant dealing with UFO matters in the areas of my assignment. As a result of my involvement, I was able to ascertain that the United States government knew a whole lot more about UFOs than it was telling the American public. That there was an intelligence involved, that there was a highly evolved technology. I learned that to a degree, we were carrying on a dialogue with this intelligence. We were making every effort we could to acquire this technology and make it part of our own existing technology. We did this, I was told, in the interest of national security. We also had an officially sanctioned deception program. This was in total disregard as to the impact this would have on the individual witnesses and also on their families. This ultimately led to my disillusionment with the program and my involvement in it. I sincerely feel that no government has the right to destroy the lives of the people which it is supposed to serve. While I was in the military and I got to the point where I was no longer interested in trying to be part of the program and actually was going against the program, and I started to be very open and talking about what was going on. This resulted in every effort being made to try to destroy my military career. I was threatened, and they even tried to force my military retirement, or I could face possible court-martial. These actions failed, of course, as you know. At one point, I even had an individual come up to me, point a gun at my head, and inform me we could have a training accident, and this would end this foolishness once and for all. I firmly believe that those of us that served in a capacity of the U.S. government in some form or fashion, and who were exposed to the truth, we have a moral obligation to the UFO witnesses, the real victims of the UFO phenomena, to expose once and for all this policy and to reveal the truth, and that is, we are not alone in the universe.
It was told to me years ago, probably a decade ago, that they had developed both zero-point energy and cold fusion. Right. And either one of these, or both, could be used to change the world by getting off fossil fuels in my opinion, as short a period as 10 years. And I have set 10 years as the deadline. I know some scientists who think we've gone past the Rubicon. And I said, well, even if that's true, and I hope it isn't, let's say that we've got 10 years to do something, but we've got to start right away. And we have to mobilize as if it was a mobilization of war for our own survival, which in fact, in many ways it is, you see. So that's exactly the mode that we've got to be in, is get off our chairs and do something and do it now. And of course, there are some real problems involved. And one of them is the misinformation being put forward by the oil industry, which has lulled a lot of people into thinking that we've got 30 years or 40 years or 50 years, and they're still drilling for oil in the Gulf of Mexico, and they're still making new projects in the oil sands in Canada. And I'm saying, too late for all that. Too late for more offshore drilling, too late for more projects in the oil sands, too late for more huge, noisy windmill farms, all of this stuff. We have to get onto the real technology that is going to make it possible to do this job and do it correctly and do it quickly. So that is the big thing. Well, then the other big thing is we have to change the world banking system. And stop letting a few private individuals create all the money as debt, which puts us all so far in debt that we can't afford to do anything, and cut back all over the place, and just to raise enough money to pay the interest on the debt we already have. And so we have to have a real change there, and what I'm going to recommend to or say to the Congress is that I wrote a book in 1999 saying that the next world war would be between the people and the banking system. And so now is the time to get at it, because they're mobilizing all their big guns, which are the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Federal Reserve System, and the Bank for International Settlement. They're getting all ready for their final assault on we the people. And a time has come for us to say, hey, enough is enough after 2.5 centuries or whatever of putting us in debt this way and making slaves of us all, that we've got to reverse the tables and print enough money country by country to balance our budgets and get our economies back up to scratch, employ the unemployed people, and then do this tremendous job that has to be done of converting from an oil economy into a clean energy economy.
We're in this terrible mess on a planetary level, yet I think most people, and I include myself to a certain extent in this, are still kind of like expecting there to be a technological solution. And we actually have to overcome that and see that solutions like begin with our own sort of intimate connection to the world around us.
What are we to leave behind for future generations? Why are we living this way, and what is causing this? How much control do we have over our own lives? Are we the creators of our own destinies? Do we choose the reality we want to create? We have to work within a system that is based upon financial profit, which makes it difficult to have complete free will. So what is the reasoning for so much secrecy? Is the end of the rabbit hole more than our third-dimensional perception can comprehend? To unveil the truth about the existence of extraterrestrial life would change human consciousness and would open up many questions about the origins of civilization. It would alter our perception of the universe. We would start using more alternate energy sources that don't pollute our environment. We would no longer be so subservient to a power structure that wants to keep us controlled and in slavery, which is why so much secrecy is kept from all of us.
When the study was concluded in '64, they concluded that there were 4 different groups apparently coming and visiting us. Out of those 4 different groups, one group looked exactly like we do, so much so that they could sit beside you in a restaurant or in an airplane or in a theater, and you'd never know. And that particular point bothered the military guys a lot. The point being that some of these people from somewhere could be walking up and down the corridors of SHAPE headquarters, or they could be walking up and down the corridors of the Pentagon. One day at lunch, a lieutenant colonel made the remark, he says, Jesus, do you realize they could even be in the White House? And there was a little forced laughter at that point, I remember. because a lot of us over the years have had some misgivings about the occupants of the White House. But the point I'm making is that the idea that aliens could be here in our midst bothered the military, because if you're not paranoid when you go into the service, you're certainly trained very quickly to be so. It's the nature of the military mind, I think, to be paranoid. But that was only part of the story. The SHAPE conclusions in '64 were that there were 4 groups that we knew of. They were apparently interplanetary. Some very likely were interstellar. They even concluded that some of them could be intergalactic. When I retired in 1976, many of our military people knew at that point that we were not simply dealing with visitations from people from other planets or star systems. They had concluded by '76 that some of these visitors very well might be multidimensional in their source. The evidence that we had collected and the evidence that they had repeatedly demonstrated to us, and that's no accident. It became very clear after a time that there was a program or a process of some kind underway, that they had demonstrated over and over and over again that they apparently were able to manipulate matter and time. Now, this really shook up our scientists. There are a lot of new young scientists in particle physics today who talk about multiple dimensions. I'm not enough of a physicist to try to explain to you what a dimension is, but the idea that there could be intelligences from somewhere else, from other dimensions, coming and going into our reality. It's been quite a shakeup in traditional science. I guess I speak out openly and bluntly about this because I feel so strongly about it. I violate my security oath every time I speak about it. I do it intentionally, and I do it on purpose, because I feel so strongly that the American people not only have a right to know the truth, but they have a need to know the truth. The truth, Don, apparently is simply this, that we're not alone, we've never been alone. We are apparently part of an infinite universe filled with intelligent life. I find that exciting. It doesn't frighten me. The SHAPE study concluded in '64 that if they, whoever they were malevolent or hostile, that they could have taken this planet and cleaned it up and eliminated us, turned us into dog food or whatever, a long, long time ago. That the historical evidence indicates that they've been with us a long time, and I've concluded that we had what I like to call an intimate interrelationship with at least one of those groups, the group that looks exactly like we do. And that point is, I don't like the word alien. I don't think the term alien is appropriate at all here. I like to refer to them as family. We're related to them. I think they had a hand in our being here. And I think the time has come where we're about to meet our extended family. It's going to be very soon, and the people are not ready. And one of the reasons I do speak out so bluntly and so openly is if in some small way I can help people get prepared for this. Because I believe that this reality, once we have accepted it and understood it and gone beyond the fear, will bring about an expansion of consciousness in the human race that will truly help us and prepare us to go out there and take our rightful place in that infinite community of life.
What's your problem? I said, what's your problem?
are you today, sir?
Okay, how's it going?
Fine, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Is we have to literally ask for the truth. If we cannot ask for the truth, we must demand the truth. We must take it before courts of law and common law systems, and we must demand it. If we cannot do this, our founding fathers told us the only thing left is to overthrow, to get the parasites out. I don't advocate overthrow, but it does look like this may be the only alternative.
In 1971, MJ-12, representing the U.S. government, made a deal with extraterrestrial biological entities, or the race known as the Greys. The deal was that in exchange for extraterrestrial technology, the U.S. government was to ignore the abductions that were going on and suppress information about the cattle mutilations.
Group, the Secretary of Defense, the first 3 directors of the CIA, an Air Force general who would later become head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of the Army, and 5 of the nation's leading scientists at the time.
One characteristic was clear. They all had worked on very high security stuff.
Friedman is immediately intrigued by one name that appears on the list.
Here's Donald Howard Menzel, who'd written 3 anti-UFO books. Explained away every sighting, and yet he was supposedly on the inside.
First of all, the objects are not unidentified. We know what they are. Second, in many cases, in most cases, are not flying. And finally, in many cases, they are not even material.
11 levels, each level increasing in security as you go lower and lower. The information that was provided to us by Thomas Costello gave us very complex floor plans that had been drawn out. Here we're looking at the first level of Dulce. The central hub here is security, which extends all the way down. It's the hub of these concentric ring circles. Each area is connected by corridors and passageways. Level 2, they strip you down and take all your personal clothing, they weigh your body, they take biometric scans of you and everything. So in case you're trying to smuggle something out, they know exactly what you ate, they know exactly how much you should weigh, they know if you have something in your stomach.
They're really taking it to extremes.
Well, you would have to with something like this. They're frightened that it would be discovered that humans were being experimented on for genetic research. Well, level 3, we have the computer bank area. This is where they contain all command, control, communications, and intelligence.
Level 3 doesn't sound very dark. When does it all start?
Well, it starts getting more interesting at level 4. Here's where they get some of the more exotic research. They've studied the human aura, all aspects of telepathy, hypnosis, dreams.
Guys, wait, hang on a second. Wait, are you talking about extraterrestrial visitors that are working with our government?
Both. They call level 6 Nightmare Hall. You have aliens experimenting on humans, humans experimenting on aliens. They feel that you can sacrifice the one for the many. There's nobody safe. This is where all the genetic experimentation is occurring, where they fuse animals and humans together.
John Lear showed me his drawings of the Costello photographs in which there were body parts in vats of morphed human beings in cages.
About 2 or 3 years ago, a mouse with a human ear growing out of its back. Do you remember seeing that?
I saw that.
Remember, the military-industrial corporate complex is actually about 30 to 40 years ahead of us. So that means that at the time when these came out, chances are they were successfully fusing humans and other animals together as a precursor to what we're...
All the hell broke loose, really. All started. Anyway, after we drilled all 4 holes, it took about 2 days to drill all 4 of them. And when you build an underground base, you drill 4 basic holes, and then you build, called stopes or cross-member holes across, and then you use blasting equipment, special blasting equipment by the analyzation of the rock formation, and you literally blast out or tunnel out or deflagrate or melt rock out to build the large rooms that are required for this underground base. Well, in this process, I was lowered down the basket of one of these holes, and about from me to this elderly woman here in the front was sitting a 7-foot-tall alien gray. The stench was worse than the worst garbage can you can imagine. The person was or the entity was absolutely horrible. I didn't waste any time. I reached for my pistol. At that time, as an engineer, I didn't have time to carry all the folderol of one of these big submachine guns that all the sea spray and the yellow fruit and all the outer perimeter and inner perimeter security people carried. I carried a little Walther PPK pistol with a 9-shot clip. This was in late August of 1979. Now, you got a regular suit of clothes, you got a regular clothes on, plus you're in almost like a spacesuit environment, and you're reaching for a gun. It's not the easiest thing to do, and then to pop a clip in it and start shooting. And I killed 2 of them. Yes, they're mortal, and they do die. However, in the process, one of them did this. All I remember is that he just kind of waved his hand in front of his chest, and the next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish, and burnt my fingers right off of me. And it was some form of electrical force, because the kind of like being hit by a lightning bolt burned all my toenails off of me. Completely crispy crittered my left foot. Burnt the shoe right off of me. All I remember is the smoking remains, and I'm still conscious, but in and out of, I didn't remember much. And there was a Green Beret that was right behind me that risked his life. In fact, he died. But he risked his life. He shoved me back in the basket and hit the button and took me up. And I wouldn't be alive talking to you today if it wasn't for him. I'm forever indebted. He lost his life. 66 Secret Service agents, Green Berets, Black Berets, crack troops lost their lives because the government, our United States government, lied, did not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious. It's been going on since that time. Since late August of 1979, our military, the Russian military, basically the militaries of the world, have been in constant conflict with the outer space alien. The small gray, the large gray, the reptilians, the whole thing. There are 11 distinct races of aliens. 2 are benevolent. 1 had to leave here in a hurry because their world is under attack, both on the surface as well as underground there, the Pleiadians.
Again, this is a story that was relayed to me, and allegedly what happened in '79, there was some sort of information exchange going on where there were actual live aliens at the facility, and at one particular point there was an area where some security personnel went to enter, and apparently because not the sidearms but the bullets in the sidearms, from what I understand, if they would have entered the area, the bullets would have detonated. And supposedly one of the creatures tried to stop the security personnel from entering the area, and a fight ensued. And the bottom line from the altercation was that the security personnel, I don't remember how many were involved, but were all killed, and they died of head wounds, and that's all that I heard of that story. There were 22 people with majestic clearance. I had majestic clearance. Majestic clearance was designated as clearance 38 levels above Q clearance, and Q clearance is the civilian top secret clearance. It probably really hit me when I got inside the craft and looked around and began to understand how the craft was operated, and finally grasped the whole project as a whole, as what we were doing, the fact that we weren't building this thing, we were trying to find out how it was made. We were back engineering it. Normally the bus pulled around to the opposite end of the facility, which was the main entrance, and that's where we went in. On this particular occasion, it pulled up to one of the hangar doors, which were normally closed, and the last one was open. We came out and I saw the disc in the hangar. Upon seeing it, it struck me that, well, this explains all the UFO sightings. Not thinking that it was an extraterrestrial craft, that this must have been some advanced form of fighter that we've been working on for years, and people have just caught it being tested, so on and so forth. And it never even occurred to me, even though I was looking at an extraterrestrial vehicle, that this wasn't man-made. People have asserted that, boy, that must have been the most exciting time in your life, and that's not the way it was. When I first got to look inside the craft, all I can say, it's an ominous feeling. You walk in there and it feels as if you shouldn't be there. I know that sounds kind of corny, but it's a real ominous feeling. It's not an exciting feeling. It brings up a whole lot of questions in your mind. Well, where did this come from? And you know that they won't give you the answers to the whole story, but it's that's the only way I can describe it.
I am convinced, based on my research and the individuals whom I've had contact in the U.S. intelligence community, that the U.S. government does indeed have craft that meet the description of many of the UFO reports.
I was paid by the Department of Naval Intelligence, and what they're doing, researching extraterrestrial craft, is beyond me, but that's where my checks came from, so I can only assume that they were in charge of that. Supposedly, the information, now this isn't something that I determined, it's something I was told, that the crafts originated from a planet that orbited the Zeta Reticuli star system. Zeta Reticuli 1 and Zeta Reticuli 2 are two stars of a binary star system. The craft allegedly came from there. One or two autopsy photographs I saw dealt with just a small photograph, a bust shot essentially, just head, shoulders, and chest of an alien with a chest was cut open in a T fashion and one single organ was removed. The organ itself in the other picture was cut and vivisectioned essentially, showing the different chambers in there. This was totally unrelated to anything I was doing, but from that photograph it looked like what you see in UFO lore as the typical gray. So how tall it was from what I could see, I couldn't tell because I only saw a portion of the photograph, but if everything else you see is correct, I would imagine it was 3.5 or 4 feet tall. But there again, all I had to see was a photograph, and I didn't have much to go on. Allegedly, this interaction has occurred since man was a simian creature, and there were genetic alterations made.
Would you say it's America's most top secret military base?
As far as an operational test facility, it's probably the most secret test facility in the free world. Yes.
I think one of the things that impressed me the most about what the contractors would share with us is that they were in the tunnel building business, and they were digging tunnels all over the damn place, and they had these big 40-foot tunnel boring machines, on railroad tracks. They'd go into the side of a mountain, literally, and they would go down and then out. And they were laughing one time. They said they were digging a tunnel and they ran into another tunnel, which they didn't know about.
Really?
And they said the tunnel they ran into was better than the one they were building. And all our ears perked up. And I said, yeah, what? He says, this thing was beautiful. He says, it was big and it was smooth and the walls were like glass. And he says, we built this damn thing. The ones we were building were, rough and not too ready, and we had to plaster them and, finish them up a bit with cement and all to make them livable. But he says, we ran into a series of tunnels that were incredible. And what we were going to do is we were going to get a Jeep and load it up with, spotlights and water, and whatever, and we were going to explore. And one of our senior supervisors, he said, found out about our plan and threatened to court-martial or put us all in jail. And he said, you stay the hell out of those tunnels. Those are not ours. Those are not for you to look at. You leave them alone. And he said, all among themselves, who the hell built those tunnels, you know? Well, who had the technology to build those that good? Technologically, they are so far beyond us that we can't even imagine it. And I think spiritually they are so far beyond us. And I think those are the ones that are really calling the shots. I think those are the ones that are really in charge of the program. And you see other aliens, you see little grays, you see tall grays, you see tall whites with no hair at all. You even see, some of the people have described seeing reptilians. I don't deny that. I don't doubt that for a moment. But I've concluded that the one group that seems to be running the program, at least on planet Earth, are the Anunnaki from Nibiru, our cousins, our forefathers, as it were.
So it's possible that they had built those tunnels?
I think so. They said that there were tunnels all over the damn place. There were tunnels going from Groom Lake to Nellis, which is what, about 10 miles, 20 miles, something like that. There were rumors that some of the tunnels went over to Fort Huachuca, which is in southern Arizona.
And you had been stationed there at one time?
And I had been stationed at Huachuca. And I knew there were some, mysterious goings on there, but anyhow, they said that there were tunnels all over the place. So when I hear these rumors about tunnels across the continent with high-speed rail, yeah, I'm not surprised.
So the Phil Schneider reports about underground tunnels and some of the maps that he provided, that kind of thing, do you guys have problems with that?
It makes sense to me.
Okay, so the Andromedans tell you that the Alpha Draconians are here now. Where?
There are 1,833 of them that have been living underground between 100 and 200 miles beneath the surface. They've been here, some of them have been here a long, long time. They have lifespans that are thousands of years. They're carnivorous. They are not friendly to mankind, at least the ones that are here.
Are you saying carnivorous, they eat humans?
Yes. And they won't eat a dead human. It has to be alive at the time of the killing. Their preference is children. And we've been told, you shouldn't talk about that. There are other people say, well, you better not talk about the reptilians. Well, bull. Why not? According to the Andromedans, they're responsible for 31,712 children disappearing in the last 25 years from the United States. These children were food.
How are they able to do it? How are they able to come up out of this from underground and do it? Or do they have...
There are tunneling systems everywhere. They're being helped by the Greys, and also there are groups within the higher echelon that are actually helping them acquire this.
So human beings are abducting the kids and giving them to the Greys, who in turn give them to the Alpha Draconians?
That's right. That's part of the deal. They won't come up as long as we feed them down there. You understand? It's about human beings selling themselves out. The echelon attitude here, the needs of the few outweigh the needs of humanity. And sorry, that just isn't right. But it's going to have to be humanity that's going to rise up and take the stand. You're just going to have to turn off your televisions. They're going to have to get in their car. They're going to have to fire everybody in Washington, D.C. that knows and does nothing. And they're going to have to do something. This apathy's got to end. Otherwise, the way we live is going to end. Period. That's the bottom line. And I'm not coming from a fear space. I'm really quite angry about the apathy and the fact that, when people give lectures and try to tell this, people want to stand up and fight with them. Look at what's happening around us. The indications are everywhere. Everywhere. The truth is now an obscure thing. The lie is the norm. There's something wrong here. What's wrong with this picture?
There was a very, very tight security blanket screwed down tight over all of the alien question. The downed craft, the fact that they were here, the technology that we were recovering. Some craft, strangely enough, were not damaged. at all. But we could not recognize anything that we had previously known as mechanical, electrical, hydraulic, or any other thing that we knew of, except eventually we discovered that the craft contained a small reactor approximately the size of a large football or a small basketball, which was said to be a clean reactor, and the craft, this particular craft, used or seemed to use water as fuel. Now, how that all works, I don't know. I am not a nuclear physicist.
It is up to all of us to judge. Knowing is half the battle, and what we do with information in our actions is up to us to decide.